me ask you something straight up. With all the books, with all the podcasts, with all the YouTube videos, the courses, the mentors, the endless motivation, why do people still fail? Why is it that with more access to information than any generation before, people are still stuck in the same cycle? Why are they still broke, still depressed, still unhealthy, still unfulfilled? You've got Google in your pocket, yet you're still searching for purpose. You know the gym routine, but you're still tired and overweight. You understand success principles, but you're still not living them. Why? Because knowing is not doing. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. Because people are addicted to the illusion of progress. Let's get brutally honest. They fail. And some of you are failing not because you're not capable, but because you're comfortable. You've made a truce with mediocrity. You say things like, at least I'm not like them, or it's not that bad, or worse, I'll start Monday. Listen to me. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Comfort is where your dreams go to die slowly without a sound. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's a quiet death. 1,000 little compromises. 1,000 moments where you knew what to do and chose not to. That's why they fail. They wait for the right time, the right mood, the perfect plan. They want certainty before they leap. But life doesn't work like that. You jump and then the net appears. You act and then the answers come. You don't get clarity by thinking, you get clarity by moving. But most won't move. They'd rather binge content that makes them feel like they're improving when all they're doing is hiding. They're addicted to motivation, but allergic to discipline. Let's go deeper. People fail because they're afraid of pain. Afraid to be embarrassed, afraid to be judged, afraid to lose, so they play small. They shrink their dreams down to what feels safe, what feels acceptable, what won't make waves. But listen, avoiding pain doesn't bring pleasure, it brings regret. And regret is the worst pain of all because it never leaves you. It haunts you. At least failure teaches you, regret just tortures you. Let me remind you, your time here is limited. You don't get to keep delaying your potential because you're scared. You don't get to play it safe and then complain about not winning. You either pay the price of discipline today or the price of regret tomorrow. But you pay either way. So which one will it be? Here's the truth they won't tell you. The winners, the ones who rise, the ones who build the life everyone else dreams of, they fail too. But they don't stop there. They don't build their identity around failure. They use it. They study it. They squeeze wisdom out of every mistake like it's gold. Because it is. They know every failure is a stepping stone, not a tombstone. But most people, they fail once and build a story around it. I'm not good at this. I guess this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not lucky like others. That's why they fail, not because of the fall, but because of the story they tell themselves after the fall. You've got to change that story. Instead of I failed, say I learned. Instead of I can't, say I'm training. Instead of I'm stuck, say I'm evolving. You want to stop failing? Stop speaking failure of your life. Let me tell you something powerful. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you tolerate. What are you tolerating? Are you tolerating toxic habits, tolerating low standards, tolerating people who drain your energy, tolerating your own excuses? You want to change your life? Raise your standards. Decide right now that there are things you simply will not accept anymore. Not in your body, not in your mindset, not in your relationships, not in your hustle. Most people never decide. They dabble, they try, but they don't commit. You've got to burn the boats. You've got to get to a place where you're not interested in success, you're obsessed. You're not hoping, you're making it happen. You're not dipping your toe, you're diving all in. And let me tell you, when you go all in, life meets you halfway. It opens doors, it puts the right people in your path, it gives you momentum. But only when you decide to stop playing small. They still fail because they never made that decision. Let today be the day you do. Stop waiting. Stop preparing forever. Stop consuming and start creating. Stop blaming your past, your parents, your partner, your paycheck. You are not your past. You are your present choices. So choose power, choose resilience, choose action, choose courage, not comfort. Because failure is not the enemy. Failure is the mentor. Failure is the test. Failure is the forge where strength is made. But quitting is the enemy. Excuses are the enemy. Doubt is the enemy. Waiting for the right moment is the enemy. You want to rise? Then fall. Get back up. Fall again. 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 Get back up. Repeat until you're unbreakable. You want to succeed? Then outlast everyone who gave up, outwork everyone who's comfortable, outgrow everyone who stayed the same. They still fail because they won't do that. Will you? Comfort is the enemy of greatness. It's seductive, it's warm, it's familiar. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Comfort doesn't challenge you. It doesn't push you. It doesn't ask you to grow, stretch, or evolve. It convinces you to stay exactly where you are, doing exactly what you've always done, because it's safe. But safe doesn't build champions. Safe doesn't spark revolutions. Safe doesn't make history. Safe is the breeding ground of average. And the brutal truth is that average isn't what you were born for. You were born for something more, something greater, something that requires risk, pain, effort, and persistence. But comfort whispers to you that you don't need to try that hard. That maybe you're fine just the way you are. That growth can wait. That whisper is the voice that steals dreams. People who choose comfort over courage will always wonder what could have been. They'll look back with regret, not because they failed, but because they never tried. Because they avoided the discomfort that comes with stepping into the unknown. Growth is uncomfortable. Success is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. But you can't have the reward without the risk. You can't have transformation without tension. The gym is uncomfortable. Studying is uncomfortable. Building something from nothing is uncomfortable. Speaking your truth is uncomfortable. Saying no is uncomfortable. But those very things are the path to your next level. And yet, most people choose the couch over the climb. They choose ease over effort. They choose the familiar over the fulfilling. Comfort is sneaky. It doesn't feel like an enemy. It feels like relief. It feels like peace. It feels like you've earned a break. And sometimes you have. But comfort is addictive. It turns a short rest into a full stop. It turns a pause into paralysis. It turns a day off into a lifestyle. And while you're relaxing, life keeps moving. The opportunities you hesitated on go to the person who acted. The potential you buried starts to rot. The fire you once had starts to fade. Comfort slowly erodes your ambition until you no longer believe you're capable of more. Every breakthrough you want is just beyond your current level of comfort. Every skill you need, every relationship you desire, every income goal, every fitness transformation, every ounce of mental peace, all of it demands that you stretch, that you step outside the bubble you've built, that you lean into the friction instead of running from it. And that means embracing discomfort like a training ground, welcoming it, like a signal that you're growing. If it's scary, it means it matters. If it's uncomfortable, it means it's expanding you. And if it's hard, it means it's worth it. The people who win long term are the ones who do what's necessary, not what's easy. They wake up early when they don't feel like it. They have hard conversations when it would be easier to stay silent. They show up consistently when no one's watching. They sacrifice comfort in the short term for the power that comes in the long term. Because comfort will never reward you. Only growth will. And growth only happens outside the lines of your comfort zone. When you stretch yourself past what feels good. When you chase discomfort, not avoid it. When you stop choosing what's easy and start choosing what's effective. Because comfort is predictable. Comfort is average. Comfort is forgettable. Greatness, however, is earned in the fires of discomfort. It's built by those willing to trade feeling good today for the life they want tomorrow. Knowledge without action is just entertainment. You can read every book on success, watch every motivational video, take every course, and still stay exactly where you are if you don't do something with it. It feels good to learn. It feels productive to gather information, to highlight pages, to take notes, to nod your head in agreement. But if all you ever do is consume and never execute, you're not changing your life. You're distracting yourself from it. Information is not transformation. Knowing the path is not the same as walking it. You can understand every strategy in the world, but until you take that first step, it's all just theory. And theory doesn't build businesses. Theory doesn't get you fit. Theory doesn't fix your mindset. Only action does that. There are people out there with a fraction of the knowledge you have, living the life you want, not because they're smarter or more talented, but because they did something. They applied what they knew. They tested, they failed, they learned, they adjusted, and they kept moving. Meanwhile, most people are stuck in an endless loop of preparation, convincing themselves they're progressing when all they're really doing is avoiding. Avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort, avoiding the possibility of failure. So they stay in research mode. But there is no perfect time. There is only now. The world doesn't reward what you know. It rewards what you do with what you know. Knowledge is potential power. It's not power until it's activated. You can know how to build a brand, but until you start creating, posting, testing, and adjusting, it's just a nice idea in your head. You can know how to speak with confidence, but until you actually step up and use your voice, that knowledge means nothing. You can know the perfect workout and diet plan, but if you don't follow it, it won't transform your body. You can study emotional intelligence, mindset, discipline, but none of it rewires your life until you apply it when it's hard. Too many people are addicted to the feeling of learning because it feels safe. There's no judgment in reading a book. There's no rejection in watching a video. There's no failure in taking notes, but there is failure in taking a risk. There is vulnerability in showing up. There is discomfort in doing the work. And that's why most people stay stuck, because they confuse movement with progress. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive. Just because you're learning doesn't mean you're growing. Growth comes from doing, from failing forward, from applying your lessons in real time, with real stakes and real resistance. It's easy to say, I already know that. But the better question is, am I living it? Knowing something intellectually is one thing. Knowing it experientially, living it, breathing it, acting on it, is something else entirely. The gap between knowing and doing is where most dreams die. That gap is filled with excuses, fear, laziness, and perfectionism. It's filled with good intentions that never become reality, and the only way to close that gap is with consistent, courageous action. Not one big leap, but daily, deliberate steps. The kind of action that might be small in the moment, but compounds over time. Because the people who win are not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who do the most with what they know. They don't need all the answers before they begin. They learn on the move. They evolve through action. They adjust as they go. And that's why they win. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you tolerate. Life doesn't hand you rewards based on how hard you try or how badly you want something. It responds to the standards you set and the limits you're willing to enforce. People walk around frustrated, asking why they're not where they want to be, when the truth is, they've been tolerating far too much for far too long. They tolerate toxic relationships, excuses, distractions, procrastination, bad habits, low energy, and environments that drain them. And then they wonder why they feel stuck. It's not because the opportunity isn't there. It's because their standards have become negotiable. Every single day, you are teaching the world how to treat you. Not with your words, but with what you allow, what you let slide, what you make excuses for. If you keep tolerating disrespect, it becomes normal. If you tolerate being average, it becomes your identity. If you tolerate mediocrity in your efforts, that's the level you stay at. You can talk about goals, vision, and ambition all day, but if your actions show that you'll accept less, that's exactly what you'll keep getting. People don't rise to the level of their dreams, they fall to the level of their standards. Raising your standards is not about arrogance or perfection. It's about refusing to settle. It's about making a decision that says, this is the minimum I accept from myself, my environment, and my future. It's about drawing a line in the sand and refusing to cross it, no matter what. That might mean cutting ties with people who drain your energy, even if they've been in your life for years. It might mean choosing discipline over comfort, even when it's not convenient. It might mean saying no to anything that doesn't align with your highest self, no matter how tempting it is in the moment. The truth is, most people lower their standards to match their current results. They see failure, so they stop trying. They see slow progress, so they settle. But champions do the opposite. They raise their standards to pull their results upward. They don't tolerate sloppiness in their habits. They don't tolerate inconsistency in their effort. They don't tolerate negativity, laziness, or excuses. They demand more from themselves than anyone else ever could. And because they demand more, they get more. Your standards are not just what you say, they're what you consistently act on. If you say you want to be fit, but tolerate skipping workouts, that's your real standard. If you say you want to build a business, but tolerate wasting hours scrolling through your phone, that's your real standard. If you say you want deep relationships, but tolerate surface level conversations and emotional distance, that's your real standard. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is filled with what you've been willing to tolerate. And the moment you raise that bar, the game changes. Change doesn't begin with a goal, it begins with a refusal. A refusal to live the same day on repeat. A refusal to make the same excuses. a refusal to keep pretending that someday is a strategy. The moment you say, I'm done tolerating this, you ignite a fire. That fire is what burns the old version of you and makes room for the new one. But you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Look at your routines. Look at your surroundings. Look at your mindset. What are you tolerating that's keeping you small? What are you allowing that you know is holding you back? What would change if you decided to raise the standard right now without waiting for permission, motivation, or a perfect plan? Failure is a stepping stone, not a tombstone. Too many people treat failure like the end when it's really the beginning of something better. It's not a sign that you're done, it's a sign that you're trying, pushing, growing. Every person who ever achieved anything worthwhile has walked through failure more than once. They've stumbled, made mistakes, faced embarrassment, and kept moving anyway. The difference isn't that they didn't fail, it's that they didn't let failure define them. They saw it for what it was, feedback, not defeat. A lesson, not a loss. A redirection, not a rejection. Most people are conditioned to fear failure from an early age. School teaches that mistakes are bad, that red marks on paper mean you're not smart. Society tells you that if you fall, people will laugh, that if you fail, you should feel shame. But success has no straight line. It's messy, it's uncertain, it's filled with trial and error. Those who rise are the ones who build their resilience muscle. They fall and rise stronger, they miss and adjust, they hear no and move toward yes. They don't attach their identity to the outcome, they attach it to the effort. They know that every failure is one step closer to mastery, clarity, and breakthrough. You cannot grow without failing. You cannot win without losing first. Failure sharpens you. It humbles you. It shows you your blind spots. It removes the fluff and exposes what's real. It forces you to decide, will you keep going or will you stop here? And that decision, not the failure itself, is what determines your destiny. The people who stay stuck are the ones who let one setback define their future. They fail once and build a story around it. They say things like, I'm not good at this, or I guess it's not for me, or maybe I'm just not meant to succeed. They create an identity out of a single moment and live under its weight for years. But failure is never personal unless you make it personal. It's never permanent unless you allow it to be. It's simply part of the process of becoming who you're meant to be. When a baby learns to walk and falls 100 times, no one calls them a failure. We cheer for their persistence. But somewhere along the line, adults forget that falling is part of learning. We expect perfection, we avoid risk, we become spectators in our own lives, afraid to try because we might get it wrong. But if you're not failing at something, you're not trying hard enough. You're playing it safe, staying in your comfort zone, and missing out on the very lessons that would take you to the next level. Failure is a mirror. It shows you your habits, your preparation, your mindset. It gives you the raw truth. And if you're willing to look, to analyze, to reflect, you'll come back sharper, stronger, and more focused. The problem is never the fall, it's the refusal to get back up. The people who succeed long term are not the most gifted. They are the most persistent. They are the ones who learn to love the process, to embrace the setbacks, to see failure as fuel. They use it as a stepping stone to build character, to develop grit, to cultivate the kind of mindset that can handle success when it comes. You don't bury your dreams at the sight of your mistakes. You build on them. You gather the broken pieces and create something better. You shift your perspective and realize that failure is not your enemy, it's your ally. It's the test life gives you to prove how bad you want it, how strong you are, how willing you are to rise again. You either pay the price of discipline today or the price of regret tomorrow. There is no escaping the cost. Every decision you make is a trade between effort now or pain later. The question is never whether you'll pay, but when and how much. Discipline demands that you show up when you don't feel like it, that you push through resistance, that you choose the harder path now to build the life you actually want. It means doing what needs to be done instead of what's easy. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it takes sacrifice. But that short-term discomfort is a fraction of the long-term agony that comes from knowing you could have done more but didn't. Regret is brutal. It doesn't just sit quietly in the background. It haunts you. It shows up in silence, in the pauses of your day, in the moments when you see someone living the life you wanted but didn't work for. It creeps into your mind when you're alone, reminding you of the time you had, the chances you wasted, the goals you let slip because it was inconvenient to be consistent. That's the weight people carry when they choose comfort over commitment. And the longer you delay the discipline, the heavier the regret becomes. Discipline is not a punishment. It's a form of self-respect. It's saying, I am worthy of the effort. I am capable of the grind. I am strong enough to delay gratification because what I'm building matters more than how I feel right now. Discipline is waking up early when you'd rather sleep. It's sticking to your plan when no one is watching. It's choosing to train when your body aches. It's saying no to the distraction, to the junk food, to the bad habits, because you know what's at stake. It's showing up for your future one hard decision at a time. Every champion, every master, every leader has chosen discipline over and over again. Not because they're special, but because they understand the power of consistency. They know that one day of discipline won't change your life, but hundreds will. They know that momentum builds not from motivation, but from the repetition of doing the work when it's boring, when it's hard, when it doesn't feel rewarding in the moment. That's how mastery is built, brick by brick, rep by rep, decision by decision. The truth is, discipline is freedom. It might sound like a contradiction, but it's not. When you master discipline, you gain control over your life. You're not a slave to your impulses. You're not a victim of circumstances. You choose how you respond, where your energy goes, and what direction your life takes. Regret, on the other hand, chains you to the past. It keeps you stuck in what ifs and I should haves. It drains your confidence and erodes your peace. Discipline builds self-trust. Regret builds resentment. You can lie to others, you can make excuses, pretend it wasn't your fault, blame the timing, the people, the situation, but deep down you know the truth. You know if you gave your best. You know if you stayed consistent. You know if you honored your potential or wasted it. And that truth becomes your story. It becomes the way you view yourself. It becomes the difference between pride and disappointment. That's why the price of discipline is always worth it, because it buys you pride, power, and peace. And the more you practice it, the stronger you become, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You become the kind of person who follows through, who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't need perfect conditions to keep moving forward. You become someone who can be counted on, not just by others, but by yourself.